So, the latest employment numbers for India are out, and wow, are they telling a story. If you're prepping for your exams, you know this kind of data is pure gold. So, in this deep dive, we're going to decode this jobs boom, break down all the key trends, and give you some solid, memorable takeaways you can use. Let's get right into it. All right, let's kick things off with a number that's got everyone talking: a staggering 16.83 crore net jobs added in just 6 years. That is a massive figure. But what does it really mean, and how did we get there? Well, that's what we're here to unpack. So here's our game plan. We'll start with the big headline numbers. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of key labor metrics. The jargon you absolutely have to know. After that, we'll look at the amazing story of women in the workforce, check out where the new jobs are coming from, and see what policies are driving this change. And we'll finish up with a super handy slide of all the key takeaways for your final revision. Okay, first things first, let's look at the big picture. This isn't just one number. It's a story told by two powerful trends that are happening at the very same time. So how do we get to that huge 16.83 crore number? Well, it's a 1-2 punch. First, you see total employment just ballooning, going from 47.5 crore all the way up to over 64 crore. But here's the kicker. At the exact same time, the unemployment rate was basically sliced in half, dropping from 6% to just 3.2%. When you see both of those things happening together, you know something big is going on. Now, to really understand this story, we've got to speak the language, right? This next section is absolutely crucial, especially for your prelims. We're going to break down the key terms. Nailing these definitions is a total game changer. First up is the labor force participation rate, or LFPR. Now listen up, because this is key. This isn't just about who has a job. It's the measure of everyone who is economically active. That means people who are either working or out there actively looking for work. A rising LFPR is a great sign. It usually means people are feeling optimistic about the economy. You'll want to commit this definition to memory. And the trend here is pretty incredible. The LFPR has jumped more than 10 points, from just under 50% to over 60%. That means a much, much larger slice of the population is now in the game, either working or wanting to work. That's a huge shift. Next, let's talk about the worker population ratio, or WPR. So you might be wondering, what's the difference between this and LFPR? Well, while LFPR includes people who are still looking for a job, WPR is much more direct. It only counts the percentage of the population that is actually employed. It's the bottom line on who has a job. And just like with LFPR, the WPR is also way up, from 46.8% to 58.2%. This is the proof in the pudding, right here. It tells us that the growing labor force wasn't just a bunch of people looking for work. It translated directly into more people actually getting jobs. Okay, so let's switch gears and look at the type of work people were doing. This is a snapshot from back in 2017-18. As you can see, self-employment was already the biggest piece of the pie at over 52%. Just keep that number in your head, because what you're about to see next is fascinating. And there it is. Look at that shift. Fast forward to today, and self-employment has grown even more to almost 58.5%. But look at what shrank: casual labor. This tells a really important story about a structural shift away from daily wage work towards something more entrepreneurial and independent. All right, now for what is honestly one of the most incredible parts of this entire report: the phenomenal rise of women in the Indian workforce. This isn't just a footnote, it's a headline, and it's a very, very likely topic for your mains essays, so let's really zoom in here. I mean, just look at this graph. It's staggering. The female LFPR shot up from 23.3% to 41.7%. That's nearly double in just 6 years. This is so much more than a statistic. It's a social and economic revolution happening right before our eyes. Now, in an exam, they're not just going to ask you about the trend. They'll want to know the why. You'll need to cite specific government policies. So, to help you recall them when the pressure's on, let's create a quick and easy mnemonic. It's super simple, just remember the name, Namala. Na is for the Namo-droned DD scheme, which is all about empowering rural women with tech. Mi is for Mission Shakti, which focuses on women's safety and empowerment. And La is for Lakpati DD, a program aimed at creating millions of women entrepreneurs. Namala. Easy to remember and super effective. So we've seen this incredible growth, but the question is, where are all these new jobs actually coming from? Let's take a look at the new engines that are really firing up India's employment scene. The job market today looks totally different than it did a decade ago. You've got the gig economy, which is just exploding and expected to hit 2.35 crore workers soon. India is now the world's third largest startup hub, creating over 17 lakh jobs. And get this, the rise of global capability centers, or GCCs, has been so huge that people are now calling India the GCC capital of the world. These are the specific, high-impact numbers you want to use in your answers. Of course, a boom like this doesn't just happen in a vacuum. Let's quickly touch on the government policies that have really helped create the environment for this kind of growth to happen. And you guessed it, we're not going to let you leave without another memory hack. This is for the big, overarching employment schemes. Let's lock these in so you can recall them in a snap during the exam. Okay, the phrase to remember is this: My skilled Rozgar gives Vishwas. My is your cue for MGNREGA. Skill is, of course, the Skill India mission. Rozgar points to the Rozgar Melas, the big job fairs. And Vishwas, which means trust, connects to the PM Vishwakarma scheme. It's a simple little sentence that ties together 4 major initiatives. Phew, we have covered a lot of ground. So now, for what might be the most important slide of all, let's boil everything down to the absolute must-remember facts. Think of this as your final revision cheat sheet. All right, let's do a rapid-fire round. Lock these in. Net jobs added, 16.83 crore. Unemployment rate, down to 3.2%. Labor force participation rate, up to 60.1%. The female LFPR, a massive jump to 41.7%. Self-employment is now the dominant force at 58.4%. The gig workforce is projected to hit 2.35 crore, and startups have created over 17 lakh jobs. These are the core stats you need to have down cold. And that brings us to the end. The data paints a very clear picture of where India's workforce is right now. But for you, as a future public servant, the real job is to think about where it's all headed. So we'll leave you with this question for your mains and interview prep. As this workforce gets more digital, more entrepreneurial, and more diverse, what new policies and support systems will be needed? That's a crucial question for India's future. All the best with your preparation.